Hello, I'm Lucy from Bookaxe and I'm here today to review The Chain by Adrian McKinty. Anyone who saw our mid-year freakout tag this week will know that I promised that the next review I filmed would be Boy Swallows Universe by Trent Doughton. And I have filmed that and it will be coming out very shortly, but I thought I'd squeeze in another little one in the meantime. This one, The Chain by Adrian McKinty, partly because I just absolutely tore through it in the last couple of days, but also it only came out this week, so I figure it might be on a couple of people's radars already. So that's what I'm going to do. If you are new to this channel, if you've come for The Chain, please do stick around and be sure to subscribe, and we would love to get to know you. So, I mean, unless you've had your head in the ground in the last week and you've looked at anything book related, this is the one you will have no doubt seen. It has been the very definition of hype. It is a thriller set in America by a chap who has written 12 novels previously. So I think I'm right in saying this is his 13th novel, but none of the other ones have sort of been huge. This is definitely the one that is being pegged as his breakout success, and I can totally see why, because the hook of this novel, just the fundamental premise at its core, is so good. It follows, The Chain itself. Now, what would you do if you got a phone call saying that your child had been kidnapped and the only way that you could free them was to kidnap someone else's? So the idea of The Chain is, sort of this ongoing series of kidnaps and ransoms being paid through the internet to heaven knows where, but drawing on, the fundamental fears of, people losing loved ones. We follow Rachel, who is a 30-something divorcee who gets that call to say that her daughter, Kylie, 13-year-old, has been abducted, and the only way for Rachel to get her back is to pay $25,000 and kidnap somebody else's child to keep the chain rolling forward. Now, she enlists the help of her ex-brother-in-law, Iraq veteran, ex-brother-in-law, who is suffering from PTSD in a fairly major way, if there's any other way to say to suffer from it. But she enlists him, and together Rachel and Pete go on this mission to not break the chain and get Kylie back in one piece. And at first, it does all seem to kind of be, moving in the right direction. But of course, in a book like this, nothing can ever quite go to plan. And, it sounds like a really simple premise, doesn't it? And it is, but it is clever in the way that it is executed. The style of writing is incredibly accessible. I mean, you're not going to really get any simpler style of writing. It's to the point, it's clean and it's crisp and it's well written, but it is the definition of simplicity. The chapters are incredibly short, just a couple of pages a pop, and that keeps the momentum going forward at an absolutely breakneck pace. The hook might be simple, but it also sounds quite far-fetched, doesn't it really? I mean, it does sound kind of as absurd as it is horrific, but the reason that it works is because it plays on just this fundamental parental devotion. If ever ordinary law-abiding citizens were going to be driven into some, terrible criminal acts like kidnap, it's going to be ultimately in defense of their own children. And it sets up these questions really well about what would you do, and, how far would you go when it really is literally an us against them situation. In terms of characters, there's not a lot of depth. I mean, they're pretty surface level characters, really. I think if you like a thriller that's more character driven, something like Dark Pines, it would be more to your taste. Tuva, the lead character in that, she's really bright and original and empathetic, whereas in this book, you know, Rachel, Pete, Kylie and the other characters that come into play are much more superficial and in a way much more sort of everymen. They're sort of very ordinary, but it doesn't matter, because the thrill in this book, or the terror in this book, doesn't necessarily come from you really wanting them to succeed, and you know, wanting them to succeed for their own sake because you care about these characters specifically. It comes from the fact that you are projecting yourself onto them, I think, much more. So going, what would I do if I was in this situation? What would I do if it were my child? And that is really I think what makes this book work for me, despite the fact that I didn't necessarily really care about the characters. You know, it is all about the plot and the fact that it is ultimately, despite being absurd, incredibly believable. And actually, even though these characters are quite shallow, when their motivations are explained, it is all very logical, it is all very rational, and you can buy into the reasoning that you're being given. I think that makes this a plausible scenario, even though ultimately you think that could just never happen, could it? The ending of this book is completely and utterly Hollywood. I don't think I have ever read a book more self-consciously Hollywood in its ending than The Chain, to the point where the characters even have a little chat about who would play them in the movie version. I mean, this is absolutely set up to become a Hollywood blockbuster, and I think in fact it has been sold to Paramount Pictures maybe for I think it's at a 7-figure deal. And you know, in terms of context of what books usually get sold to production companies at, that is just staggering. I mean, so many get sold for, you know, just a couple of thousand pounds, a couple of $1,000s, you know, small sums is the norm. So to sell for a 7-figure sum is just pretty incredible, which is why, you know, this book is getting so much hype. But also, you know, I do feel like it is worth it. There are moments in it. Rachel, the character whose daughter is kidnapped, is a philosophy major from Harvard, although, you know, one that hasn't really fulfilled her potential. And she does a lot of sort of very crude philosophizing, which, you know, sort of stuck out a little bit to me. And you couple that with the completely and utterly Hollywood ending. And, you know, when you look at it objectively, you're sort of like, a little bit like this, but because the hook is so good and because the execution is so page-turning and clever and gripping, I have absolutely no doubt that this book will totally live up to its hype and be pretty much the thriller of the summer. I reckon you're gonna see this one absolutely everywhere. And if you do get the chance to read it, I tore through it in like 2 evenings. It is totally worth picking up. So that was The Chain by Adrian McKinty. I would love to know if you fancy reading this one. If you've already read it, what did you think? If you've got another favourite thriller that you'd like to share with me, I would love to know. In the meantime, I promise that I will post a review to Boy Spoilers Universe. I just got a bit excited about this one in the meantime. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!